Hey, it's Michael from DistroMike, and today we're going to talk about the differences between CBD Isolate, broad spectrum CBD Distillate, and full spectrum Distillate. I'm sure if you've heard anything about CBD or done any sort of reading or research, you've heard these terms sort of thrown around. So we're going to sort of dive in and show you firsthand what the differences are and what are these things. So when you hear a CBD isolate, this is what they're referring to. It's a white powder. When extracted properly, it's 99.9% essentially pure CBD. There's no plant matter, there's no fats, there's no lipids, there's no other cannabinoids. It is just CBD. When you hear of a broad spectrum distillate, this is what they're referring to. Now, this is crystallized, while this is not. However, this is still considered a distillate. When we add heat to this, this is going to convert back into a liquid, just like the isolate. When you add heat to isolate, it converts into a liquid. However, when it gets back to room temp, it does harden up and recrystallize. Same with the broad spectrum distillate. The reason this is crystally and not a liquidy type thick substance like this is CBD at over 50% potency, it crystallizes. So broad spectrum distillate is normally going to come in between 80 and say 95% CBD. So because it's way over that 50% threshold, it's going to cause the distillate to harden up and really turn into a big crystal rock. The definition of a broad spectrum distillate is going to be any sort of CBD cannabinoid, CBD distillate that does not have THC. Most of the time it will have other minors such as CBG or CBC or CBN, but the defining factor of broad spectrum is going to be zero THC, no THC at all. Now we have full spectrum. So full spectrum is sort of like broad spectrum, except there is THC in it. That's really the only difference between a broad spectrum distillate and a full spectrum distillate is the presence or the absence of THC. Now, if you look at this, you'll see that this is not crystallized like this jar here. The reason this is not crystallized is because it's a crystal resistant CBD, essentially meaning that the CBD content of what's in this jar is below 50%. And since it's below 50%, it does not crystallize and it still stays in a semi-liquid, even though very thick form. What's making up this entire jar here is CBD coming in around 45 to 50%. And then you've got some other minor cannabinoids like CBG, CBN, and CBC. And then the rest of the substance inside of here is gonna be plant matter. The reason I personally don't like crystal resistant distillates very much is they taste very hempy and very weedy, but not in a good way. So if you ever smoke a crystal resistant distillate, or if you buy a cartridge from the store that says crystal resistant distillate with no cutting agents, no dilutants, this is what they're referring to. Most of the time it will taste very hempy, and that's personally not my preference. So we went over CBD isolate. We went over the differences between broad spectrum distillate and full spectrum distillate, meaning broad spectrum has no THC, full spectrum has THC. And then we touched base on crystal resistant CBD distillate. Now, if you have more questions, please head over to our distromike.com website. We've got tons of great content and information. We're here to teach, educate, and hopefully entertain you a little bit. So if you have any questions at all, or you want to learn more about anything to do with CBD, hemp, vaping, let us know. We'd love to help. Talk to you soon.